That's what
You
we're going to do.
got to deregulate it first. If a bank had to privately take risk on by themselves, they'd be out of business, right?
They should have been out of business in 2008.
Absolutely.
But they got bailed out.
They never would have gotten as big in the first place if the government
I'm
didn't back
50% social.
Well, no. What happened was that in 1998, Glass-Steagall was repealed.
What exactly is the Glass-Steagall?
It was passed in 1934,
Right.
and it was designed to separate commercial banking from investment banking. Okay.
So Goldman Sachs became a commercialized bank.
Well, no. The idea was to keep investment banking separate from commercial banking. So if one part of the banking system exploded, the other one would not be affected. And it kept us solid for 64 years. Do you remember the S&L scandal in 1991?
Oh, wait a minute. Now I remember. You're 1934 that started, so this is shortly after the New Deal.
Correct.
That's where they put all these-
64 years, it kept us solid. When the S&Ls blew up in 1991, Wall Street was not affected. Why? Because they didn't have their hands in that money. So as a result, the damage was contained.
So do you guys all think greed is bad?
I don't answer like weird rhetorical, philosophical questions. I'm here for Glass-Steagall. I'm here for reform.
That's it. You just want the one regulation, and then
So
you're
far,
happy. So if we get this,
well, I'm going to put some points on the board, and then we can talk about things forward. I'm not going to answer like what exactly I want right now,
But
completely
you have to.
forever.
You can't say you want to abolish the system and not have anything.
I didn't want to say anything about it.
So what do you want?
Reform.
What do you want?
Reform.
You just want Glass-Steagall.
Well, it's a good start, and then we'll take it from there.
30 years to screw it up. You're supposed to have it
What if you
solved in
didn't have
30
any
days.
regulations whatsoever? Now, what if,
It would be disastrous.
you guys familiar with Ayn Rand at all? Sure. You need a separation of economics and state, similar to the way you have a separation of
Thank you. It doesn't work that way. These guys bribe Congress and they write laws on their own behalf.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's
so we
why
need to work within the existing system, not an Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged fantasy. That's never going to exist.
That's
It never
fine.
has existed.
That's not
Okay?
true. The Industrial Revolution, it existed. And
No, the trusts bought Congress back then too.
After it was successful, they destroyed it. But for a long,
Okay, well.
for a long period of time, it was successful.
Not really. I mean,
You guys like Thomas Jefferson?
you had the Civil War, and then the Industrial Revolution before the Great Depression, the first Great Depression, was maybe 15 years before the trust went and bought out Congress. So I love Ayn Rand, believe me. I love libertarian
You think
ideas,
it's a fantasy,
but there are
so-
certain reforms that have to be implemented.
See, I disagree. Here's why. Because if a bank is
Glass-Steagall
forced,
is the evidence of that.
right, but
so much. My name is Murat.
regulations that's thrown down the
Nice to
pipeline by
meet you.
Congress,
This is my
that's
start.
not
I'm
intended to
independent.
That's why we're in the situation we are in.
Well, the unintended consequence of Glass-Steagall was 64 years of bank instability.
Shit, right? Am I right? I mean, I don't disagree with that ever, but there's nothing wrong with wanting to go out there and seek a profit. That's fine. Let's face it. All we're trying
We're not
to do,
against that.
Listen, all we're trying to do is find a system that allocates resources the best, right? Because the world's full of resources, they're limited, so who gets them, and what do we do with them once we unearth them out of a mine or underground, right? Socialism doesn't work, correct? Because you give all the power to the state.
Again,
No one seems to want to talk about what I'm saying here and answer the questions.
yeah, but
They're tough questions.
they're rhetorical questions first of all.
There's nothing rhetorical about that.
Of course.
I'm saying
of
the
course. It's all
deregulation
gotcha
system-
questions and little cheesy things like that.
There's
Okay,
nothing
you have to
cheesy-
understand.
there's nothing
there
cheesy about
has to
freedom.
be
There's nothing
reform, and there has to be certain laws in place. These guys are sociopaths. If you give them this wide open free market, the Wall Street guys, these guys are sociopaths. They don't care about Ayn Rand. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They're a bunch of criminals.
I disagree.
Well, look at 2008. They shook us down and they extorted us for $800 billion. That's the evidence right there. That's a smoking gun right there. Okay?
It's more than $800 million.
Fair enough, but the actual act was $800 billion.
And
Okay?
some of the things
so
you
don't
have-
tell me that they're not going to go and take your Ayn Rand stuff and beat you over the head with it, and beat me over the head with it, and steal the entire till with
She
it.
talked about this in
Isn't government like wasting trillions of our money?
Right.
Sure.
Dude, you guys should direct your anger at government, not the banking institutions.
It's both. The banks are the government, dude.
For what, accepting it? Yeah, accepting it.
Look at
Government
2008.
Sachs, it's government Sachs.
Yeah.
basically
Life, Liberty, and Goldman Sachs.
It's lobbies.
So
Look
if
at
you-
2008.
if you
That's a
wanna-
smoking gun.
You said you want to work within the system?
More or less.
Ron Paul.
Reform it.
You have no other choice. If you want to work within the confines
Again,
of the system,
my only problem
you
with
have-
Ron Paul is that
you
he's
have
against
no
Glass-Steagall.
choice. If you
That's
wanna
my
work
only
within
problem
it-
with Ron
And
Paul.
who do you vote for in 2020?
I don't know.
The least of the evils, but
I don't know.
Well, what's evil about Ron Paul?
He doesn't want Glass-Steagall.
Yes, because he doesn't want any regulation at all. He
Ah,
needs-
yes, but it was proven to be
No,
a
it-
solid
why?
reform
What
for
was good
64
about it?
years.
No, it-
1991
because
is the
you-
evidence.
you had-
We would have had 2008, 17 years earlier, if it wasn't for
Let's
Glass-Steagall.
go back to the crash of 1929, correct?
Let's go back to 1991.
Well, you might
Okay?
just start with
This
my
is the
audit
evidence. 1991
I don't
versus
mind engaging
2008.
you in a conversation, but you got to let me say a few things.
Go ahead.
All right. The reason that the depression was prolonged is a direct. It's the Federal Reserve. It's a direct cause
to audit the
of
Federal
Federal Reserve policy. He wants to.
The audit. He wants to audit.
He wants to audit it, but he wants to end it completely.
Benji, get rid
Now,
of
Now,
it.
is anyone?
But I'm not a big fan of the gold standard.
Why?
The Federal
gold-
Reserve
you know
should
what the
work.
gold
The
standard
problem
is?
is that
No.
they can't just keep printing
See,
money.
but
That's the problem.
If you want
If
to
they did their job correctly, the Federal Reserve would be fine.
no, the Federal Reserve needs to be out completely.
And the thing is, if we go to the gold standard, who has all the gold?
Federal Reserve needs to go.
Why do you think centralized banks hold gold in storage? They're not holding diamonds,
Not
they're
that
holding
much.
gold.
Let me ask you something,
There
guys.
are certain economic laws that are irreversible, and gold being money is one of them.
Federal
Gold
Reserve
will
is
always
the
be money because the free market, free people with no Glass-Steagall decide what they want money to be.
It's not the way it works out,
That's
though.
the way it has worked out throughout
They must have
history.
recovered.
Ever
Not
since
in 2008.
Ever since 1930, you had the New Deal, you have welfare, Social Security, and Medicare. Guess what? They're all insolvent, failed systems.
Not
Why?
talking about
Because they
that.
don't work, but you
Not
have
talking
to.
about that.
All of this is interrelated. You can't ignore
You
socialized.
still need certain laws to
Doesn't
keep
matter.
these
All right,
psychopaths
when
under
you're-
control.
That's a
When
great
you
point.
bailed
You gotta
out
think
the
about
banks
that.
in 2008, all you did was socialize the losses.
Put me on that,
Of course,
kid.
it was
Get me in
terrible.
there.
Okay,
I was
what do you
against
think
it.
they
Hey,
did
come on,
back
you should've
then?
been a
Got you on
They
there.
got me in there.
I got a quick glimpse of you, babe. My
Because
God.
they did blow themselves up.
The Federal Reserve.
We have socialism on Wall Street. That's what we
Get in
have.
there.
Great. I would actually go as far as
They
say
should
that
never been bailed
Americans
out.
don't really have
Put a kid in.
when it
Come
comes
on.
to voting.
You're in
Because I
there,
think
Jay.
both
You're in
parties
there
are
again, Jay.
socialist,
Come on.
Republican,
I don't know.
Yeah.
man.
Okay, one
Or they're purchased.
Get somebody out there.
Warfare and welfare.
Absolutely. So they're both wrong because you're socializing the losses when you. So you're against the New
And
Deal.
Wall Street gives $1 million to Republicans, and they give $900,000 to the Democrats,
So wait,
or vice versa.
well, nobody's
They,
gonna get
they bribe both. They bribe both parties.
But so you're
Okay.
against the New Deal, then you're against.
No.
Well,
Again,
then you're for
rhetorical
socializing
questions.
losses.
Rhetorical questions. Please stop.
There's no.
Okay.
No, those are the hard
These are
questions
nuances.
that nobody down here can seem to answer.
I'm not.
Dave,
but
put
again,
your
but that's
jacket
the New
on.
Deal. The New Deal was a huge raft of legislation, which included Glass-Steagall.
I'll let you guys
Okay,
know
so that's a
where-
rhetorical question.
What's
Okay.
rhetorical about the question?
Again, to say that
I'm
I'm
asking-
against all of the New Deal,
No,
I'm
I'm
not,
asking-
because Glass-Steagall was part of the New Deal.
What part of the New Deal is good then? That's
part
a
of
rhetorical
Glass-Steagall?
question. That's not part of the New Deal.
It was, yeah. Sure. It's part of the whole raft of legislation that took place in 1933,
The
34.
New Deal were the entitlements that came out for people.
It was
Glass-Steagall
also banking reform. It was the creation of the SEC.
That's not the
It was
New
the
Deal.
creation of the
They
commodities.
came around in a
okay,
like we're
so if you
arguing
wanna-
semantics.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
like all of them
semantics.
came around at the same time.
All right, fine.
So who do you want to vote for in 2012
I
to
don't
change
know.
things here?
I don't know. I mean, Ron Paul's the best, but the problem with Ron Paul is he doesn't want Glass-Steagall. So it's almost like, damn, you know, I'm politically homeless.
We can't think that way, right, guys? All right, then. So let's
Politically
vote for
homeless.
him. Who's voting? You got to register Republican, and you got to make sure you support this guy.
Look,
in the
I like him.
primary.
I like him. He wants to end the wars. I'm against the
But
wars.
you want to keep the Federal Reserve in plan.
I don't know. I'm
All right, so it seems like, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but it seems like there's a little bit more homework we have to do in order.
No. I don't know if the gold standard would be better.
Oh, you know what the gold standard is?
And again,
Good
Paul's
debate
against
in this
All right,
Glass-Steagall.
do you
and that's a
know?
big problem.
I can explain to you why the gold standard is absolutely essential.
Go ahead.
It puts a cap on government spending. Right now, the government has a monopoly over fiat currency. You can create money out of thin air. It's the
Amendment at work, you people.
And the Federal Reserve is also private.
Here, everyone, it's your
It's a private consortium of banks. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Federal Reserve. Don't get me wrong.
Right, so-
but Paul doesn't want to have any regulations at all. I think
that's what freedom's all about because.
Read about it.
no law.
And I'm not.
We need laws.
I'm just asking a question. I don't want to be
Laws are important. We have to control the psychopaths.
Now, that's a common thing that people say that I guess. Why do you think the credit system collapsed?
Rock and roll, man.
Because of a gold standard.
By the way, you did a
Because
great
have
rendition of
fixed,
Hallelujah.
amount of currency
If I had any
out
money, I would have
there.
put some in your cake.
Hey, you know what? Save it to do what you do what you do.
Well, it caps the amount of currency.
Break the banks up,
It
people.
caps the amount of money that they can actually circulate in the system, but it doesn't destroy credit. You
Break
can
'em up.
Issue credit to people. I would argue that credit is another part of the problem in terms of there's way too much of it.
$800 billion extortion.
You saw it in 2008 was in the 11.
How many indictments? Zero.
Oil go to $150 a barrel. Everyone was paying over $4 a gallon at the pump.
There you go.
And
Is that easier for you?
economies couldn't withstand it for a while, and that was the beginning and the end. Then you had housing, and then it led to new finance. The problem
HR
is
1489.
that they don't realize
Reinstitute
they play
Glass-Steagall
regular
now.
hands, when they ask for more regulation. More regulation is what brings us right back to where we started.
Nope. The loss of regulations such as Glass-Steagall caused the great extortion in 2008.
Here's the thing. The reason the banks got bailed out is because they were allowed to take on unnecessary risk knowing that they were going to get
Because they
bailed out
had their
of their money.
talons in the mortgages.
All right,